Assalamu alaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. To carry on with the anatomy of the head and neck, I'm going to discuss in this presentation the anatomy of the parotid gland. I'm Dr. Dalia Saleh, Professor of Anatomy at Mansoura University. In this presentation, we're going to cover the following points. First, we will talk about the site and the extension of the parotid gland, its relations. Then we will talk about the parotid duct, its relations and where it terminates. And then we will talk about the contents of the parotid gland and their arrangement. Then the nerve supply of the parotid gland, both the sensory and the secretomotor. And finally, its lymphatic drainage. The parotid gland is the largest salivary gland. It's composed of serous acini, so its secretion is mostly serous. It lies in this deep hollow below the external auditory meatus, behind the ramus of the mandible and of course the muscles attached to it, and in front of the mastoid process and the sternocleidomastoid. In this cross section, we can see the ramus of the mandible with its two surfaces, lateral surface and the medial surface. The lateral surface here is covered by the masseter muscle and the medial surface is covered by the medial pterygoid muscle. And we can see the parotid gland curving around the posterior border of the ramus of the mandible like this. Inside the parotid gland, we have the facial nerve, which divides it into superficial part and deeper part, or superficial lobe and deep lobe. The superficial part, about 80% of the gland, lies on the posterior aspect of the masseter muscle. So this is the superficial part, lies over the masseter muscle here. The deep part of the gland, about 20% of the volume of the gland, extends deep in the stylomandibular tunnel. If we look at this picture, this is the mastoid process, this is the styloid process, this is the external auditory meatus. Here is the mandibular fossa and this is the articular tubercle, so the ramus of the mandible will be in this part or in this area. So the stylomandibular tunnel again is formed anteriorly by the posterior border or the posterior edge of the ramus of the mandible, posteriorly by the anterior border of the sternocleidomastoid muscle and the posterior belly of digastric. So this is the mastoid process, attached to it the sternocleidomastoid and also the posterior belly of digastric muscle. Deep in the stylomandibular tunnel, we have the styloid process and the muscles attached to it and also the stylomandibular ligament. So if we simply want to summarize the relations of the parotid gland, anteriorly we have the ramus of the mandible with the two muscles attached to it, the masseter and the medial pterygoid, and posteriorly we have the mastoid process and the styloid process and the muscles attached to them, the sternomastoid, the posterior belly of digastric. Deep to it lies the styloid process with the muscles attached to it. We can see in this picture the stylohyoid muscle, and deep here the stylopharyngeus muscle and also the stylomandibular ligament. The parotid duct, which lies here, it runs anteriorly from the gland and lies superficial to the masseter muscle. It represents the middle third of a line drawn from the external auditory meatus to a point here at the middle of the upper lip. It lies inferior to the transverse facial artery, which is the branch of the superficial temporal artery. Then the parotid duct turns sharply medially and passes through the layers forming the cheek and the muscle, of course, which forms the cheek, which is the buccinator muscle. Then it pierces the buccal mucosa and opens in the vestibule of the mouth opposite the upper second molar tooth. You can see its opening here. What about the contents of the parotid gland? The parotid gland contains the following structures from deeper to superficial. We have the external carotid artery, which is the deepest structure, and behind the neck of the mandible it will split into the superficial temporal and maxillary artery. In the middle we have the retromandibular vein or the posterior facial vein, which is formed by union of the superficial temporal vein and the maxillary vein. At the lower border of the mandible, it will split into anterior division and posterior division. The anterior division will join the anterior fascial and form the common fascial, which terminates into the internal jugular vein, while its posterior division joins the posterior auricular, and together they will form the external jugular vein, which will terminate into the subclavian vein. The most superficial structure will be the facial nerve. The facial nerve will divide into 5 terminal motor branches that will come out from the anterior border of the parotid gland, as we can see here. We have the temporal branches, the zygomatic branches, the buccal branches, the mandibular branches, and the descending cervical branch. They will supply the muscles of the face, plus the buccinator and also the platysma muscle. For the nerve supply of the parotid gland, first we have the sensory innervation. The capsule of the parotid gland and the fascia overlying it is supplied by the great auricular nerve, which is a branch of the cervical plexus, comes from the neck, winding at the posterior border of the sternomastoid, reach here upward at the angle of the mandible, and supplies the skin over this region and also the fascia overlying the parotid gland and its fibrous capsule. The other nerve is the auriculotemporal nerve. We can see it here in front of the auricle at the side of the temple. It supplies the tissue of the parotid gland itself, or the parenchyma of the parotid gland. It traverses the upper part of the parotid gland and emerges from its superior surface along with the superficial temporal vessels. It carries sensory fibers from the parotid gland back to the trigeminal nerve, and also carries the parasympathetic secretomotor fibers or innervation to the parotid gland. The second type of innervation of the parotid gland, we have the parasympathetic secretomotor fibers, which is derived from the glossopharyngeal nerve or the ninth cranial nerve. This nerve gives many branches, and then give a branch called the lesser petrosal nerve, relay in the otic ganglion, which is a parasympathetic ganglion attached to the mandibular nerve, and then postganglionic fibers come out of the otic ganglia and reach the gland along with the auriculotemporal nerve. The sympathetic supply for the parotid gland and the sympathetic fibers arise from the superior cervical ganglion. The sympathetic fibers make a plexus around the arteries and reach the gland, and has a vasomotor control of the blood vessels of the parotid gland. This picture summarizes the parasympathetic innervation of the parotid gland. First, we have the glossopharyngeal nerve, which comes out of the skull through the jugular foramen. It gives a tympanic branch and then tympanic plexus, and from the tympanic plexus the lesser superficial petrosal nerve will come out. The lesser superficial petrosal nerve will reach the otic ganglion, which is a parasympathetic ganglion attached to the mandibular nerve, and relay there. From the otic ganglion, the postganglionic fibers come out, join the auriculotemporal nerve, and reach the parotid gland to supply secretomotor fibers to it. For the lymphatic drainage of the parotid gland, first we have the parotid lymph nodes, which lies within the parotid gland. They also drain the nasopharynx, the palate, the middle ear, and the external auditory meatus. The parotid lymph nodes then will drain into the preauricular lymph nodes, which lie in front of the auricle. They also drain the temporal region, the scalp, and the upper part of the face. From there, the lymph nodes will pass to the superficial and deep cervical lymph nodes, which lie in the neck. This is the end of my presentation. Thanks for listening. If you like it, please do not forget to subscribe, like, and share, and do not forget to hit the notification bell so you'll be notified if I upload another video. Thank you.